Lora was a young woman who had known hardship all her life. She was an orphan, living alone in the small old house that once belonged to her parents. They had passed away when she was just a child, leaving her to fend for herself. Since then, Lora had struggled every day to survive, working hard to make ends meet. To earn a living, she worked on people's farms, helping them plant, weed, and harvest their crops. The work was tough and the pay was little, but Lora never complained. She was always grateful for whatever she earned, no matter how small. Every coin she received brought her joy, because she knew she had worked honestly for it. Lora was also a strikingly beautiful young woman. Whenever she stepped out, people couldn't help but admire her. Men, especially, were drawn to her beauty, and many tried to get close to her. They would approach her, hoping to be her friend, or perhaps something more. But Lora had no interest in casual friendships with men. She didn't want to be anyone's friend. She wanted to be a wife. Despite her beauty and the attention she received, Lora never depended on any man for money or favors. She believed in working hard for herself. She was strong, independent, and determined. Deep in her heart, she knew that one day, a good man would come along. A man who would see her worth, love her, and make her his wife. Until then, she would continue to work, to hustle, and to live with hope. She believed that life would reward her patience and hard work. And so Lora's journey continued, one day at a time. One evening, as Lora was walking home from the farm, tired and covered in dust, she met an old woman standing by the roadside. The woman had deep wrinkles on her face, her eyes sharp and knowing, as if she could see into Lora's soul. "Stop, my child," the old woman said, raising a hand. Lora halted, surprised. She had never seen this woman before. The old woman looked at her for a long moment before speaking again. "Your suffering is over," she said. "I will help you." Lora's heart pounded. Could this be true? Could someone finally help her out of her struggles? With tears in her eyes, she fell to her knees. "Please, mother," Lora begged. "I have suffered for so long. Since my parents died, I have struggled to survive. I work hard, but I never have enough. Please help me. I just want to be rich and live a good life." The old woman nodded. "I have been watching you, child. You are hardworking and strong. That is why I have chosen to help you." She reached into her worn-out shawl and pulled out a small pouch filled with money. She placed it in Lora's hands. "Take this money," the old woman instructed. "Use it to open a restaurant. Start selling food, and very soon you will be rich." Lora's eyes widened in disbelief. A restaurant? She had never thought of that before, but it sounded like a good idea. "Thank you, mother. May the gods bless you," Lora said, her hands trembling as she held the pouch. But before she could stand up and leave, the old woman grabbed her arm tightly. Her grip was stronger than Lora expected. "There is one condition," the woman said, lowering her voice. Lora's excitement turned into curiosity and fear. "What condition?" she asked hesitantly. "You must cook with your menstrual blood," the old woman said, her eyes dark and serious. Lora's mouth fell open. "What?" she whispered, unsure if she had heard correctly. The old woman continued. "When people eat food mixed with your menstrual blood, they will crave it. More and more customers will come, and your restaurant will never be empty. Money will flow into your hands like a river. You will become very rich." Lora was speechless. It sounded unbelievable, strange, even frightening. But the thought of wealth was too tempting. She had suffered for so long. If this was the price to pay for success, should she do it? The old woman leaned closer. "But be careful," she warned. "No one must ever see you while you are doing it. If anyone discovers your secret, everything will backfire on you in the most terrible way." Lora swallowed hard. A chill ran down her spine. She stood up, clutching the money tightly. "Thank you, mother," she said in a shaky voice. "I will do as you say." The old woman gave her a knowing smile and disappeared into the shadows. Lora hurried home, her mind racing with thoughts. Was this her chance to finally escape poverty? Would she really become rich? She had made up her mind. She would open the restaurant. She would do what the old woman had told her. And she would make sure that no one ever found out her secret. With the money she had received from the old woman, Lora rented a small shop and turned it into a restaurant. She bought cooking pots, plates, and all the ingredients she needed to start her business. But most importantly, she remembered the old woman's instructions. Every morning, before the sun rose, Lora would lock herself in her kitchen. She would prepare her food and secretly mix her menstrual blood into the meals. She was careful. No one ever saw what she did. And when she brought the food out to her customers, it was always delicious, rich in flavor, and irresistible. Word spread quickly about Lora's restaurant. People from far and near came to eat her food. Her shop was always full, with long lines of customers waiting to be served. Men, women, and even children rushed to buy her meals. Her pots were always empty before the day ended. The money flowed in like a river, just as the old woman had promised. Within a few months, Lora became incredibly rich. She bought the finest clothes, gold jewelry, and expensive shoes. But the biggest symbol of her success was the mansion she purchased. No longer did she live in her parents' old, crumbling house. Now she lived in a grand home with tall gates, shining floors, and servants to attend to her every need. Lora was happier than she had ever been. Sometimes she would sit in her large living room, laughing to herself. Is this really me? Am I the one living in such luxury, or is it my ghost? She would ask aloud, overwhelmed by her sudden wealth. She enjoyed every moment of her new life, spending money freely, dressing beautifully, and walking through the village with pride. No one knew the dark secret behind her success. One afternoon, as Lora was in her restaurant kitchen, she followed her usual routine. She carefully poured her menstrual blood into a pot of steaming soup and stirred it, making sure it was well mixed. Just as she was about to cover the pot, she heard a gasp behind her. She spun around and saw a woman standing at the kitchen door. The woman's eyes were wide with horror. "What are you doing?" she screamed. Lora's heart nearly stopped. She had been caught. The woman ran outside, shouting, "Everyone, come and see! Lora has been feeding us her menstrual blood." Within minutes, a large crowd gathered in front of the restaurant. Furious and disgusted, they stormed inside, dragging Lora out. "No, please, forgive me," Lora cried, falling to her knees. "It was the work of the devil. I didn't mean to do it," but the villagers were too angry to listen. People who had eaten at her restaurant began to vomit, horrified by what they had unknowingly consumed. The sight of them made Lora tremble. "Confess your crimes," they shouted. With tears streaming down her face, Lora confessed everything. How she had met the old woman, how she had used her blood in the food, and how it had made her rich. The crowd gasped in shock and disgust. As soon as Lora finished speaking, she suddenly clutched her chest, gasped for air, and collapsed to the ground. Her body went limp. She was dead. The villagers stared at her lifeless form in silence, then whispered among themselves, "This is what happens when greed takes over," one old man said. "She thought she could cheat nature and escape the consequences," another added. Without wasting time, the villagers carried her body deep into the evil forest, a place where those who had committed great sins were abandoned. They dumped her there and left, making sure no one ever spoke of her again. The news of Lora's deeds spread throughout the village and beyond. People were shocked, disgusted, and afraid. From that day on, the villagers became more careful about where they ate. No one trusted food from just any restaurant. They learned an important lesson. Not all that looks good is truly good. Final words to my viewers. Dear viewers, I hope you have learned from Lora's story. Greed and dishonesty may bring success for a short time, but the truth will always come out in the end. Hard work and patience are the true paths to wealth, not shortcuts filled with evil. Be careful where you eat, and always remember, nothing gained through wickedness will last. Thank you for watching, stay blessed, and see you in my next story.